Welcome in on episode 104 in the KIPS Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia. I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness. I have an episode here that's different. It is different than maybe a typical tips, entry-level beginner fitness instructor tips kind of content podcast episode that maybe you've already heard or seen. And the way that this one kind of came together was at the moment, my wife, she just got back from a work trip, and on the work trip, there's typically some element of personality typing that she's doing within her company as they implement some strategies for employees to learn more about themselves and how they can integrate better into the company that they work for. Now, this is something that I've done before, and this is something I'm going to get to in just a second, but that was something that I found very useful. And I was like, okay, what are some other things that are potentially under the radar, low-key items that you probably aren't thinking in terms of fitness related, being a fitness instructor? What are things that help me grow my career, but in my opinion, have a high return in terms of they're going to help you just be able to integrate better or be able to understand yourself better or grow. And I'm looking at the 3 tips that I have coming up here. And the last one, I'm not sure many will say this is a high return one, but we'll get to there and you can give me your feedback on it. So that is how this episode came together. Before we get to the episode, make sure you do all the things, the podcast things. Like it on your favorite platform. Give us a rating that helps us grow. And also, if you miss any of this episode, make sure that you head over to the KIPS YouTube channel, subscribe while you're there, and pick up the rest of the episode. As always, I appreciate you listening. There we go. And taking the time. There's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of fitness related content out there that can help fit pros grow. And so I always appreciate you taking the time to listen. Getting to the first one, and this is the one that I was talking about just briefly in the intro there about personality typing. So what is personality typing, or what can it do, and how did I get into it, or how did I try it out? Now, it's typically you do a quiz, and I recently did one in the last year. It was the one that the company that my wife works for, that they utilize. They had me do it just for fun. And so I've recently done one, but in essence, it's something that you do a bunch of questions that are just trying to figure out what you're like. And at the end, you get this readout, we'll say, that is telling you about yourself. And some of it might seem like a shock. Some of it you might think, oh, that's not me. And oh, maybe that's not accurate. But I will tell you that they've come a long way since when I originally did one. And when you do a personality typing exam or personal typing questionnaire, and the results you get, I think that is just half of it, especially for fitness pros. Yes, it's very important to learn about yourself. What are your tendencies? What are things that trigger you, or what are things that you might not really think about yourself, but they are true? And then how can you apply that to your job? That is half of it, in my opinion. The other half is understanding the other types of personalities, because those can help you with your day-to-day, or as a fitness instructor. Let's take the example of a personal trainer, how you take that to selling, to growing your client base, trying to get a understanding of the individual that's standing in front of you, and then taking that to how you can shape the conversation to better suit the outcome, the sale at the end of it. If you have a better understanding of what they're like and what are their triggers, that can help you with your phrasing to communicate better with them. I think that is such a big key for doing a personality typing. Yes, learn about yourself. What kind of individual are you? Okay, take that next step. What about potential clients in front of me? So I did this type of practice, this type of exercise a long time ago when I first entered the industry back in, I'm trying to jog my memory what year it was. I think it was 2009 maybe. And my fitness manager at the time, or he actually wasn't the fitness manager, he eventually became it. And he is somebody that I've had on the podcast before. He did this for a whole team. I worked at a gym with 30 to 35 personal trainers, and he did it for all of us. And we had to do the questionnaire, and then we were sitting in our different areas, and then he broke it down for us. And it was interesting because you look at the individuals that are sitting next to you, and you're like, okay, wow, it's pretty fascinating to see that I have a similar personality type. And then we took that next step, learning about the other personalities. Now, that was something that stood with me for a long time because it helps you kind of dig deeper into, okay, these are my tendencies. How can I improve in other areas? And that practice alone, I've talked about it for a long time. So when this came up with my wife and she was doing them and she was trying to type me and trying to figure out what I was like, it was pretty fascinating. And you could see those kinds of things, how they pay off. I think that this is something that you don't hear much about within the fitness industry. And I think it can be a very valuable tool for entry-level instructors, for veteran instructors, if you've never done it before. Now, if you go type into Google, there's a lot of different options out there. I would see what's free for you, and maybe do a little research before. At the time of this recording, I do not have one that I can recommend. I know that I'm going to go look and find one. And if there is one, I want to put it in the description for our listeners. But I would recommend doing this. I think it's great in terms of the value that you can impart on yourself and in the future. If you're in the market for adjustable dumbbells or at-home workout equipment, check out Core Home Fitness at the link in the description. From adjustable dumbbells, multi-function benches, and all-in-one options, they got it all. I personally have their adjustable dumbbells and the glute drive that also works as a bench, and would recommend them to anyone building their home gym or looking for easy adjustable options. The dumbbells, they easily adjust from 5 pounds to 50 pounds just by turning the handle and lock in for your safety. Grab yourself a pair and see for yourself how easy they can fit into your fitness program. If you've been a fan of this podcast, you know that before end of each episode, you're going to hear a promotion for the Naboso Duo insoles. I've been using them for probably a year and a half, and I personally think they're game changers. I think everybody should get them, try them out, see what you think. And personally, I've talked about how I used to have foot pain just from sitting at a desk and then trying to be active, trying to go work out, and not really being able to fully maximize it. So I always try to throw it out there for individuals to just try them out, see what you think, utilize them in your day-to-day, and hopefully improve your overall activity level. That's the key right there, activity level. So check them out. There's a link in the description for the Naboso insoles. They have a variety of them to check out, different accessories. Check them all out. See what you think, and hopefully come back and let us know that they've really helped out with your activity level. Let's get back to the episode. So that is tip number 1 there. Tip number 2 here. And this one is something that I've seen a lot more of over the last year as the industry evolves, as online has become a bigger part, as people are looking to stay in the industry, but also looking at some of the issues that we have. One of the big ones that has come up has been about instructors not going back to gyms. And I see this complaint, and I've heard it from different fitness, national director, fitness educators, directors of education for different gym chains. They've told me, I have a few friends that have that role, and they have told me that has been a big issue, getting instructors to come back. At the same time, what is the value that instructors provide for a gym? And I think that social media is one of those elements that if you are utilizing social media in a way that you are somebody that's attracting new clients, if you're building a base and people are following you in different areas, I think that value alone is something that gyms will look at and they'll want to invest in you. So the tip is to take a social media marketing course early on in your career, especially if you are an instructor that does not value it or does not understand it, or you feel like, oh, this is past me, or I don't need to do this. I would highly recommend it. And I've worked with several instructors that are in that boat when I worked in gyms that they thought that, oh, I don't need to do this. I just need to show up. But think about how the industry has evolved, how it's changed. And like I said before, the value that you create for a gym. If you are wanting a higher pay raise or trying to go to a different tier, if the gym you work for has a tier system, or if you're an independent and you are trying to grow your base, how are they supposed to find you? And so the practice of utilizing social media in that aspect, I think, is very important. Now, looking at the courses available, and I remember when I worked for two of the larger education companies, this was before KIPS, of course, that marketing, business items, advertising, all that realm, that area was not very talked about. It was not included in certifications, even though many fitness pros, fitness instructors will tell you, yeah, it's very important. We should know these items. Why don't we have more education out there? So these days you do see more courses, online courses that have continuing education and a part of it. And KIPS, we do have one, and that's not why I included it in this tip podcast episode. It was more of, I do see the value of it. I do see the importance of this being a key item for fitness instructors. And I think that growing within the industry, you should be doing this type of practice. And I think there, of course, is elements of getting over that barrier. If you do view social media as a negative thing, yes, there are those pieces. Then we could say that about many different things. But with having a mindset of how can I grow my social media practice to benefit my career within the fitness industry, I think you have to have that lens, which I know is not easy as just me saying it through a podcast episode. It's going to take practice. It's going to take some type of dedication to what kind of content, what do I want to put out there? And one tip I have in that area is to remember that, and this is something, again, not as easy as just saying it, but social media is not real. And me saying that, what does that mean? That means that most people just put the best of the best out there, and that's 100% fine. It's entertainment for some people, and how you engage with it, how you respond to that, all those things you can control. And so don't feel like you have to put out the most realist content. Yes, does that stuff really help? Yeah, it does. People want to know more about you, but if you do want to take it slow and just put out the best of it, okay. Do not worry. Do not feel pressured to put out more that you're not comfortable with, and grow with it. So that is tip number 2 there. And the last one I have here, and this is the one that I kind of joked about in the introduction, because I don't know, of course, I've wanted 3 tips for this one, but I do think this one is important. I think it is important for longevity. I do think it is important for working with other individuals. And this one is hygiene. And if you are already working in the industry and you're thinking, what are you talking about? Yes, we all know that that we are being active, but at the same time, we should be conscious of our hygiene working in the industry. I know that when I used to be working in gyms, exercising before getting my workout in between sessions or at a certain time and then getting back to work, I always had a change of clothes. I also had different types of hygiene products, whether it's deodorant, face wipes, things in my work bag, because I'm going to be working with individuals. I'm going to be working with clients. I do not want that scent from working out creeping over to my professional career. So having these extras, purchasing extras and having these in your gym bag, in your work bag, can go a long way. At the same time, you don't want things that are overpowering scents. That if you're spotting a client, you're working with clients and they're in your proximity, that's all that they smell. And I put this one in there because we are in a industry where we're in front of people, we're standing next to people, we're standing behind people, we are helping them, we're standing over them in some instances. And in that proximity, they're most likely going to get a whiff of what you smell like. And you do not want it to be unpleasant. Those are things that people are most likely, it's a hot topic. They're not going to say something, but you do want them to enjoy your session and you don't want them feeling like, I got a session coming up with XYZ and I'm just worried that they might smell a little bad. Take those steps to round out your appearance and your hygiene. And to be honest, people will thank you. So I put these 3 tips out there. as ones that are low key with high return. I think that all three of these are very different than what you're going to hear in a typical podcast episode talking about tips. There's ones that I've seen out there, heard out there, that you're probably not to see these on a panel discussion, but I think they're very important. I do. I think that the personality typing one is one that you'll talk about for a long time. That if you really take the time to invest in the questionnaire, yourself, and understanding yourself, you're gonna get something out of it that you're not gonna get from a continuing education course. I don't think you're going to find a fitness education company putting out personality typing courses, but I do think that is something that you should take the time to do because of what it has for the sales component, understanding the members, your clients, people that you're working with, and being able to communicate better with them. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it is very different than any episode I've put out so far. And there are things that I've gone through that I think that can really help fit pros, new, veteran, anybody out there just trying to grow the career. Thank you for listening as always, and I will catch you in the next one.